Commissioner, you need to sit up there. You need to face the crowd for the fireman squad.
So comfortable.
Okay, I have a few announcements before we start the meeting. And everyone has an agenda so they can read them themselves, but we do our weekly West Rock cleanup, which is how we get money for our organization. Neighbor to Neighbor, which is our awesome group on Saturday to help the neighbors in Lents. And we're doing a Feral Cat Cove skate park rally to save a skate park made by some fathers for their children. When COVID hit, they wanted their children to be able to do something outdoors. So they put all their own money into the skate park. So we're trying to save that. And then our fall cleanup is on the 23rd. Now I know Pickup Portland's on the 26th, but I didn't get our submission in soon enough. So we chose the 23rd, and we're going to do 92nd Avenue down here from Flayvale to Johnson Creek Boulevard. And so now our guest speaker here, Commissioner Dan Ryan, and we're going to give people 3 minutes to ask questions, and I hope it's not too difficult on you. You can handle it? Okay, so you're going to call on the people that raise their hands. I'm not going to be any part of this other than timing.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you want me to start off by saying anything, or just to dive right
It's up to you. Because you only have an hour, so.
We'd like to hear your story, Dan.
What's that?
We would like to hear what you got to say.
Oh, thank you, my friend. It's my first indoor event, and I am vaccinated, but it's odd to, I just have to say that. So I'm not used to speaking with a mask on. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just focus on what I've been focusing on, so I can tell you how I roll. When I got on the city council, it was really obvious to me that we were scattered all over the place, if you will. And so it was in the fall when I first got there. I think some of you know I started in September. It was during that week when we were all holed up because of the forest fires. And we started having these conversations about the budget. It was in the fall budget. And I said, can I just check in with everybody? Are we all on the same page about what our priorities should be? And it was actually a good dialogue. And I found out that we got there, and that was community safety, which made sense that came up since we were talking about, in the fall bump, it was about, should we defund the police more, was the dialogue. The second one was houselessness, pretty obvious. And then the third is economic recovery. So I said, can we, in our budget process, can we stay focused on this? Like all of our priorities should be, all of our spending should be focused on these two priorities. And I did that for a couple reasons. One, because I've run organizations before, and that's how you do a budget process. And then two, because we have this bureau form of government, and there's far too many, one could say. And I wanted to act as if we already weren't behaving that way, but we were actually a team that was focused on our top priorities, like any functioning team would do. So I'm proud to say that was my first influential thing I did the press will never write about. And what we did is we stayed focused throughout the budget process on those three. So I'm grateful that my executive experience was utilized in this new role because I'm not from this sector. And so that's something I'm proud of. Hello, Yesenia. I'm glad you're here. That's Yesenia Cardillo. She's a staffer, and she's amazing. And glad you found it. I drove around on other Henderson Street for a minute. Hello, members of the police.
They let any rookie in here.
Everyone keep coming in. Come on in, have a seat, make yourself at home. And I just found out on the way here that this isn't the Lents Neighborhood Association, but this is the Lents Livability. So a rookie moment on my part. Anyway, so what I'm happy to say right now is let me just, before you ask questions, tell you what I'm focused on within that. Because I really know the city needs action right now. So the mayor, when I first got in, he said, are there any assignments that you're attached to any bureaus? I said, no, I can't wait to get rid of that form of government. But I would like you to give me some that connect the dots with one another so you can actually do system work. So I'm pleased to say that it's the Housing Bureau, it's the joint office, keyword there is joint, because it's with the county where all the employees are and where they do the contracts. And then the third is a Bureau of Development Services, which is all the permits. Now, within those three, what can I do to move the work forward that's connected to our city priorities? Well, with Bureau of Development Services, I don't know if any of you know this, but doing business with the city of Portland and acquiring permits has been a challenge since the earth was cooling. It's been decades. And so there's 7 bureaus that do permitting, not just one. And so we actually have a task force that has every director and every permitting person now coming to the meeting. And all 5 commission offices, including the mayor of those 5, is engaged in this. And so that's moving along. And we're going to use metrics and data, and we're going to make it really clear, like where the permits get lost, if you will. Sometimes it's in transportation, sometimes it's in parks, you name it. And there's not a lot of accountability, because guess what? They've never all met before. They just kind of do their little silo work as they're doing their bureau assignments, they're doing their permitting assignments. And it's just raise it into the top, because this is something everyone's been complaining about forever. And it's not just the big developments, but it's residents. I'm sure some of you have experienced this. And it's also low-income housing, affordable housing permits. It's all over the map. So the big key is a mindset change where the customer actually isn't always wrong. And so when you first begin the process of working with the city, instead of sending a lot of emails at the beginning phase that are kind of punitive and telling somebody how they need to do something just perfect that's 8 pages long, if someone gets back to you and it's not easy to understand, then they actually are supposed to pick up the phone and actually try to work with them from the beginning. So I'm excited that that's up and running. And Commissioner Maps is doing that with me. I want to make sure it wasn't isolated. The second one, welcome, come on in. Yeah.
Joanne Harbison isn't helping you?
Pardon me?
Joanne Harbison is not helping you with that?
No, all offices are supportive of the process. And I like to remind them that it's a citywide challenge, and it's been hard on our city for a long time. Like if you compare us to other markets on the West Coast or even locally, everyone that tries to do business with Portland complains that it takes longer. And so, and time is money, especially when you're building things. So it's important. The second one that I'm very proud of is the Streets to Stability Task Force. So it's one reason houselessness issues are challenging at times is because each bureau has authority. At any given moment, they can take the authority away from another bureau because, say parks or transportation. So there's this turf stuff that goes on. So we're having a weekly meeting where we're working this stuff out ahead of time. So when we bring the ordinance that's going to be on the June 30th docket that looks at building these safe rest villages or restorative villages, I don't bite. There's also seats up here. People, geez, Ruby up here in front of the parking spot. You can, join. Come on. There's seats up here. There you go. So my point is, I'm about action, and I'm really excited to be there. And the culture change is what really you have to focus on. But I'm finding that there are wonderful silos. Thank you. And the third one around community safety that a lot of us are focused on, but we all need a mental health first responder response. And Portland Street Response is the pilot that just barely got started that's inside the Fire Bureau. And maybe that's the right place for it to be. Maybe it's going to be great. It's only been going on for 3 months. But where I come from, you test innovation and you look at some other strategies. And guess what? The mental health system monies all go to the county. So we really need to interface with the county unless we want to duplicate all the services. So we're just, we'll have a work session about this next month, and we will look at getting another pilot started. Because all 5 offices care about this. We just want to make sure in the pilot stage we get it right so it can actually excel. And there's a lot of headwinds on that one too, because our state, the great state of Oregon, is last in the nation in terms of a mental health system. And that's an underlying current for the House situation as well. So I just wanted to give you what I'm up to, our agenda, and how it relates to the budget. The budget passed yesterday, and I see a budget as a map. So I'm excited because there's a map for our office to lead and to move work on, and it's out in the public record. So for me, it was a big accomplishment yesterday in terms of getting a 5-0 vote on the budget, and then our office actually has some real tangible action items to move in 21-22. So I feel so much better about my job than I did before this budget. So that was really exciting, wasn't it? Yeah. And I just want to end with it's good to be here with my friend Keith Wilson. We actually went to high school together at Roosevelt, and so I was so shocked when I saw you here. And we got to bump into each other a lot last year around this time. And that's it. Now I'm open to questions. And please tell me your name before you do anything else.
My name is Mike Jenkins. They call me Pork Chop. I am the homeless, been out the homeless of Portland, Oregon the longest. I am the homeless activist of Portland. And I'm number 8 on the project program. When they came to my bus, it was a fireman and a woman. And then they told me, they asked me what I needed. I told them what I needed. I needed help getting to my bus. I needed help getting medical attention immediately because I have hernias coming out because I've been hit twice on 82nd by cars. I'm sitting in my own shit. I'm in there, can't even get out, get food. I'm asking for help. And then they couldn't give me help that day. I get another lady coming back the next day. And then she says, well, I'll sign you up for all this stuff, Section 8, this and that. You're number 8 on our list, so you're gonna be top of the list of getting off the streets. And then I said, well, what about medical? What about getting a caregiver out here? How about getting me help immediately? I haven't had any services since March, since the corona. I've been stuck in my bus trying to keep so I can go to surgery. I'm not getting any help. And then I tell them, what do I gotta do? Lay here or commit suicide in here? Next thing I know, I got the cops coming and they're gone. And they haven't back. And I'm still on the same street corner. This officer standing right behind me has been to my bus many times because there's 13-year-old kids out there shooting my dog, hitting my dogs with rocks. And there's no one's taking action on this. And then I hear that you guys are doing so wonderful with this and you're asking for more money when I'm seeing, number one, you only have one person able to drive that vehicle that has a license to drive a fire vehicle. The counselors can't be driving that with the red lights on because they're not trained. I know, I got sense, and that's what's happening. And we're not getting, what is a peanut butter sandwich gonna quiet me up? I mean, there's all the options they're giving. They can't even talk to the doctors because they don't have permission slips. They're not prepared. They're going to all the nonprofits asking them to come help them and bring the solution to them. That's not how this works. The program was set up by a young lady that was in mental health, Juliana, and it was supposed to be set up with nonprofits so we can get more soldiers out, let the nonprofits handle this stuff, because they're doing more work right now. We're getting more help from Union Gospel Mission than I can from the city. And that's God. You know, I just left where I live at right now with a shooting an hour ago. I watched 2 black guys come out top the bottom and get shot. Now, I watched a young lady on Fayetteville this winter get shot in the head by her, that should be in college right now. We got shootings going on. The homeless has to deal with it too. I'm sick. I'm tired. I need help, Dan. We need help out here. We don't need to hear that we're spending $4 million. Tell me where the $1 million that has been spent out. It's not on vehicles because you're using the fire station. It's not on a
Sir, I respect you and I agree with you. And what is your question? Because I would love to have, everybody else here has a question and I completely agree with you. And I abide by your feelings.
You know,
but
I want to know, my questions are, what are we doing about us chronic homeless out here? What is it gonna take for us to get off streets? You know, we got, you know, I'm sitting there as a cold duck. We need help out here. I called down to your office. I have called and asked for help to your office and I'm not getting nothing. So, I got police here. They'll back me up on my story. I can't even call 911 and get help because I'm the homeless. Have a nice, I'd like to speak with you after the meeting. And I have Bill Russell over here to speak up on the rest about me. Thank you. That's all I have to say. The program is not working.
And the program you're talking about, just in general, there's no system, right?
They're not even set up wrong. It's terrible. And what really gets me is the lady that really went down and figured this all out. Her program got put aside because it was supposed to go to nonprofits. And now we're spending these big salaries. I got the salaries right here. 107 for the big guy. There's 115 for the second one, and 76 something for the third one is the salary we paid on that. You know,
Okay.
they're not, we're just, we need more information.
So,
everybody here appreciates everything you're saying, and we totally agree with you. And I'm not sure what's going to happen tonight, but thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I think that we need to
I will say that the reason, my motivation to run for office is that I'm the youngest of 8, and my third oldest brother passed on the streets 7 years ago. And my motivation was because he was dual diagnosed in mental health and substance abuse issues. And our family just couldn't get him to stay with any of us. There were no services that we could find that would go meet him where he was. If we had services that would go meet him where he was, maybe one day at a time, he could have built some resilience. In my family, the people that are still alive, there's 5 of us, there's mental health and substance abuse issues in my family. If I'm the youngest of 8, I'm the first to graduate from college, that's kind of a sign. And so I understand that we need to think about this differently. And we need to meet people where they are. So that's why I'm proposing, and it's a start. It was a lot of work to get the county to finally not push against this, because and not anything's wrong with what they're doing. They have a housing focus. We can't build fast enough. So we do have to think differently in the city of Portland right now. That's why I'm proposing, and I think it'll pass on June 30th, to get these safe rest villages, restorative villages set up that have services that include hygiene, both for clothes and for washing up your body, and infrastructure that includes sanitation. And these will be managed both with the people that live there and with the nonprofits that we hope that will come meet the residents where they are. And then they will be able to do case management, assess each person, like you, Pork Chop, to see what you need. And then we can start to have a system. And our system also doesn't have any data. We don't have any data.
Why do we have to go to camps? Why don't you come to us?
That's what I'm saying, that will build them out. Well, I'll tell you why, because we need to start building these so they can be structured in a way that people can move into them. And then it'll be a lot better for the system to be able to track who's there and trying to give them the services they need so they can move on and have a better life.
Do you think a drug addict's going to move in there?
I think that we're going to move on to more questions. I can tell you from my life experience, that's going to be really tough. But it's time for us to get honest about how many there are. We don't have data that even shows us that. So it's time for us to take steps, and that's what our office is, to take action. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. There's a lot of hands up. I'll go to you.
Hi, my name is Cindy. I live in the neighborhood.
Cindy, you said?
Cindy, yes.
Okay.
How many of these little houses are they starting to build that you have proposed?
Yeah, we're proposing 6 villages to start.
And how many are the villages?
And we don't know the size yet. We have different reports. We have some people that want us to have 200 people there. We have a lot of people that say that would be a wild, big mistake. And so we're going to have that debate.
Are you talking about 6 villages like Kelly Point, like Kelly Park? Villages that look like that?
like St. John's Village, like ones that have services where they're connected so that social workers will come to the villages
So
to work.
20, 30 little tiny houses.
Yeah, they'll be on pallets. Yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's right.
yeah, it's a start.
So.
I don't know if she was done with her question.
I wasn't, well,
Yeah.
you know, in LA, the mayor was on TV and they did 39 little houses. I mean, they look like tough shed houses for $5.1 million. I mean, if you break that down to the math, that was like silly. I mean, and actually he was embarrassed trying to say it, and the reporter was saying, how much did you spend? He goes, $5.1 million for 39 little houses. So I'm hoping that
Homer's building another one right now, 16 of them for $1 million, 10,000 apiece.
Anyway, so I heard your comment
My
was
comment.
that please don't make them as expensive as the village in
Well, it'll be
LA.
more efficient.
Pardon me?
I mean, I hope that there's, you know, more, I just wanted to know how many of these villages or houses are gonna be in the village and.
And it's a start because we need to accelerate this movement. And again, this is a partnership with the county. The county manages all of the contracts with the providers.
Is that the 7 agencies that you were saying about earlier?
That's in the city. So on the city side, we have infrastructure. So the city can take steps to build the infrastructure for these. But in terms of having skilled professionals that can come to the villages and actually do case management services, behavioral health, people with addiction, counseling background and mental health background, behavioral health, those are housed in the county. So we need them to be a part of that frontline service.
Excuse me, sir, and that's the solution? And that's the solution?
You have a question? Please
Yeah,
ask me your
that's
question.
the
If you have an
solution.
opinion, please tell me your opinion.
That's the solution, like building the houses? That's the solution? The solution, I think, is what is needed right now.
Yes, please tell me
We
your
need
solution.
all the money we're gonna try to spend, that money is gonna put it in the police. And more police. That money, all that you trying to spend it right now, I think is we need to put it in the police department, so like more police. Because right now, there's not much police. That's why there's too much shooters everywhere.
Right, so your comment was, we pivoted from, what is your name?
Ruben,
Ruben? Okay, so we pivoted from the houselessness conversation to community safety, and your point is that we need more money in the police department.
of course,
I
of
just
course.
wanna make sure I
How many
understand.
police is right now? How many?
Okay, everybody here appreciates the police, but that's not, dealing with the homeless is not a police job. They do a great job. I totally
And
understand.
for the record.
But we need
I-
more police.
Ruben,
We
for
need
the
more.
record, I voted to not cut the police budget back in October. And I
Put it up, all the money, just put
I
it
got
up,
to count to
please.
3, Ruben, I've got to count to 3. And so it was good that we were able to stop that. And,
All the time just gonna put a finger, police is the bad, police is the bad, police is the bad. Come on, guys, that's not
Do
true.
anything
Huh?
without the support of what he's talking.
I'm police, but a long time ago. I hear what the people since you trying to push me, come on. Don't touch me, because nobody's gonna respect right now police. Nobody's gonna respect. She's past somebody? No, just put the finger. You think it says true? No.
What you're saying is true. We understand that. We understand that. What we're saying is a solution to not having all this going on. He's telling you gotta create something for the people that are out there. You've gotta create something, because if not, it builds and builds and builds, and I've seen it there. I live across the street from Lents Park.
Can we shut the door?
Go away,
Really loud.
come back, go away, come back and get bigger. I see the crime around me on my cameras, I see everything. I walk the park, there's crime in the park going on while there's a baseball game. They're selling illegal stolen goods in the park. Every time there's a baseball game, I know the culprits and a whole bit, there's crime. And it's not just people that want to be in homes out there, there's a lot of people that won't want to go in homes. So the solution is, yeah, let's get those who want to go somewhere, go and see it decrease out there in the streets.
I had my hand up first and you decided not to call on me. My issue
I'm doing the
is,
best I can. So anyway, what is your name again?
Karen Curry.
Okay.
My
Ms.
issue is
Karen.
those people. 7 motorhomes behind my house every day. And I don't understand what's going on and why they can't be taken away. And they're running their generators and they're doing drugs and they're pooping in the street. I don't understand that. And nobody's called on me, and I've been here for almost every meeting that I know about. I don't even know about these meetings half the time. I've been here 30 years.
I've been in mine 40, and I've seen so much.
I understand.
You know, right behind my
And
house.
my hand up first, and I was one to wait, and I paused, and I understand that nice gentleman, and I understand the police. It's not a police issue. I've called every number in the book. I've done pediatric reporter. I've called Char does everything. She's amazing. But this is not my problem. And they're pooping and peeing and doing drugs and throwing needles on my fence. They are throwing needles at my cat and my dog. I don't understand why you people don't do that. Deal with it. On Knapp Street, from 92nd down there, the tent camp that's been there before Thanksgiving, get them out of there.
Here.
They're stealing bicycles, they're pooping and peeing, and they're walking in the street, and they're towing cars out there. And that lady is crazy. She's a mental health problem, I get that, it's not my problem. But they're coming up and coming into my garbage, and they're coming into my home, and they're coming into my RV, and they're ripping me off. Mm-hmm. 30 years.
I hear you.
30 years. You haven't been here 30 years. You've not been in this neighborhood 30 years.
I did say.
No, I know. You have not been there.
And it's not just her
You have
name.
not been here.
I've been in this neighborhood for 77 years.
Thank you.
I used to catch fish in Johnson Creek. I can't even fish in Johnson Creek no more.
Read Happy Valley, Gresham, read.
Let's do this, let's one at a time.
Yeah.
So, where you want to?
Okay. So I appreciate you've been elected for this. You get money for this. What's the plan?
Well, here's the plan that I'm working on. And I have to remind you all, I'm trying to get 3 votes at the city council to move things. And then we have to also work with the county again, who manages all
But
the
why is
services.
that legal? It's a park there. Look at, they're across the street right now.
We're
They
at a
parked up
crisis,
today.
and I'm sorry that you're experiencing it right on your streets.
No,
It's
I've been
happening all over. It's
experiencing it
in
for
my
20
part of town,
years.
in Portland.
Multnomah County Corrections, my friend, with the corrections people, they come up here, they used to clean up Knapp Street. Now that's been defunded, so they can't clean that up anymore. The corrections people can't come up here, which was really nice. It gave the prisoners something to do, and they got some money, and they cleaned it up. And it was a whole program. But now that's been defunded. And so now it's okay.
What program was defunded again?
It was Multnomah County Corrections, the prisoners used to come up and clean Knapp Street. Metro. They did it for like 10 years.
And it stopped with COVID?
No, it stopped well before that. Well before that. I think the commissioners didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. I'm not ignoring you, but I'm going to go here and then back this way. Okay. Yeah.
My name is Craig Rogers, and the Davidson School District goes all the way from Gleason past Foster, and I live in it, and where I live is right across the street from the East Portland Police Precinct. There's a heavily wooded area there, there's a park, Floodlight Park, there's Floodlight Middle School, and I've only lived there for 42 years, so I kind of have a feeling for it. And things change, and what I'm going to show you, I've gone up to the David Douglas School Board, just sat on the table, and it's all I need to see. So this is just a couple months worth from what I call the bad actor corner. And you're already talking about overlapping and avoiding that between the city and the county, and I appreciate that. You actually said the word honestly, doing things that way. And I hope that also means telling the truth rather than the political thing. There's a big difference. So little kids would be coming up to my front door. A gentleman has 8 kids. They found them, so I go over there and add it to the mix. So this is just a couple months worth. And I can't say anybody in here would really want to see this stuff continue.
They're in my backyard, I get you.
I relate to what you said 100%. I do. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say. And Erica, tied with her. And in fact, there was a gentleman camped out by me, and they tased somebody over there. Just that was, oh yeah. And Doug Keys, the principal, he had a 9-volt on him. This is just.
Can I ask a question? question? I know it's not a police issue, and I totally get that. It's a community issue. It's a different story. And the police are responding to everything we're doing, but there's a robbery, they come immediately. But if it's a mental health problem or a homeless problem, they can't respond. Totally, we get that. So what's the next step? What do we do? What do we do as a neighborhood? When these cars came 3 days in a row, that's an RV, towing an RV right behind my house, and they're running a generator at 5:30 a.m. and their car alarm goes off. Who do I call? What do I do?
Ghostbusters.
I can't. If only they were responding.
You know, excuse me, you know what, right now, you need to go together, all the neighbors. Change the numbers.
No, but now, here's my, this
No,
guy,
trust me,
no, wait,
trust me.
I hired this guy 2 days ago.
Trust me.
But he told me,
Let's
wait,
work.
this guy right here, a great guy, he lives on 104th. And I hired them, I didn't know where they lived. He did my air conditioner. He's been robbed 6 times out of his van on 104th. I did not know about this. And so I'm talking to my neighbors, and everybody's cars are being broken into. He's a law-abiding citizen that's just trying to make a living. And so what do? So these people are coming off a 92nd, they're drug addicted, they're off 82nd, and they're off the Springwater corridor. We have nobody to call.
I think Dan's on the right track and he needs our support.
I
He
agree.
needs our support, but who do we call?
Well, we've got to back him, and we've got to pray to God that he's going to follow through and protect us. Because
So let me ask
we're
you
looking
this
for a safe
question.
neighborhood.
So clearly what status quo is unbelievably wrong. It's not fair. I feel bad for you. I do. And I feel bad for my neighbors out in North Portland by Delta Park. There's like probably 8 parts of town that are very grippy, and you're one of them.
Yeah.
So if there was a restorative village that was put out in your neighborhood, would you be supportive of that?
Okay, let me ask you a question.
No, let me ask you.
Yes, but do the people want to go there? Because what I've been told is, people say, I can't bring my stuff there, I can't bring my dog, I can't bring my partner.
Well, I think-
And I want them
yeah.
to bring all those things.
No, this is the dialogue we're supposed to have.
Right, we are.
Our standards
Let me-
and enforcement.
Don't ask me half the question. Give me the full thing. Give me the money, give me the dynamics, and give me what the problem
I'm going to
is.
give you everything that I
Okay,
know.
give it
That's
to
all
me.
I can do. I'll do
Okay,
the best I
but so you
can.
ask
Let me
me-
know when you want me to talk.
I want you to talk when you tell me when the people are asked, the people that need to move there and want to move there, what are their issues? And I will accommodate that. I will give them money, I will bring them food,
First of all-
I will bring them pet supplies.
All right, so first of all, each person is different. That's the truth.
Which is what these people behind my house are. You've
Okay.
never addressed them. Address the 6 people behind my house.
Okay, are we going to continue to do this?
What do you do with them
Can we
when
stay
they
They
are
are they are angry.
Let's let the commissioner answer the question.
Hey, let him tell me.
No, wait, I asked a question, he changed the question. I asked the questions about, what do I do about the people behind my house?
Where?
You have
Okay.
yet to answer.
I'm doing the best I can right
You've
now.
never
I'm
answered
I'm trying to
Answer.
listen to you and
Okay.
answer your question.
Tell me, what do I do about the people behind my house that are pooping, peeing, doing drugs right there? Right there.
I've got the answer for you. One is you're gonna know all your neighbors. You got to call the emergency service. Stop, Brent, you're gonna sit there and you're never gonna get anywhere like that.
Well, what number do I
You
call?
have to organize.
I can call every number in the book.
That's not the answer. The answer
Wait,
is.
you just said, call.
Will you let me talk?
You just said.
You're not letting me talk.
You just said.
You're not letting me talk.
You just said call, and I called the number.
That's not enough.
You're not here to argue.
Let's let the commissioner answer.
He
All right, so
said,
This is what I'm
we're
saying.
obviously
You can't rely on him.
he said it's
Can't
not
rely-
Wait, wait, you just said it.
We have to.
get together.
We have to.
No, you don't.
We're getting overrun by criminals.
No, you're not.
Do you know where I live?
You live right behind me.
If you want to come to my house, you tell me that you're going to take care of the people that are at my house. You have no idea what you're talking about. Let's let the commissioner address this.
You have.
You come to my house and you do it, then I'd love it.
I'm not on your block.
All right.
I'm on my own block. You gotta take care of your block, I'll take care of mine. If she's on my block, I'll help her.
All right, keep it down.
But to rely on these guys or some telephone number,
No, wait,
they can back me up, but they can't.
Sir, what do you think their job is? What do you think their job is?
Their job?
That's public safety. That's why we're all here.
No, that's not true.
I'm here for public safety.
They're not here, they don't wear guns to protect us.
Sir, let's let the commissioner answer. Let's let the commissioner answer.
Are they police officers? Don't they take care of all this? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I'm black. Whoa.
Well, rely on them, you've been sold.
All right, so we need to do something clearly. And that's why we need to build these villages first. Because there's this thing, listen, there's this thing called the Ninth Circuit Court that passed something, and the state of Oregon just passed it yesterday, which is that you can't forcibly remove a houseless person unless there's a place you can take them for services.
So they get the camp there?
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think
I need an answer. Sir, they are peeing and throwing drugs over my fence. They are
First of all,
completely,
someone did ask a good question. Are you and your neighbors all talking to one another about
they just showed up yesterday. And then they
No, I did ask you a question. Are you working with your neighbors?
Yes,
on
half the neighbors agree with me, half the neighbors think we need to pay more in taxes.
So this is, all I can do is focus on where we're going, and that's to build these villages. Because once we build these villages, then we'll have places to take people, and then if they don't want to go there, then law enforcement and others have an opportunity to actually do something and move them somewhere.
How long will that take to build these villages?
Yeah, we'll have 6 of them up by the end of this calendar year. And I do think we need one out of this area. And so I just want you to know, before I got there, no one was having these conversations. So no one, the city was splintered on this issue, and so is the county. So I'm not trying to clean up the city. Right now, I'm just saying I'm one person that just got in there, and we're starting to at least take action and move things.
Sir,
Yeah.
when is gonna clean up the city?
Actually, I'm gonna call in some other people because there's been some dominating voices. You had your hand.
So have you taken this, really talking about throughout the city, of doing this to everyone else? Or you just focus on neighborhoods here and there? Have you actually done this prior to today of talking what you're saying?
How many flags?
Is today the first time you brought this out, or have you been doing it at meetings all around the city?
This is by far the most lively meeting I've had because I'm vaccinated, and so I could come to.
I can understand how that feels frustration because we have been to meetings and to meetings and to meetings, and yet we still have this going on. It didn't get any smaller; it just got larger.
I know.
And the summer got here, it got even larger. I live right across the street from Lents Park, where the shooting is at. I've seen these guys come, and I support them 100%. I see them come almost every week over at Lents, taking mental patients away that are crazy. You know, I had an incident just yesterday morning that they should have been there, but he finally walked away. But it's craziness on the backside where I live at, where he lives right behind me. I mean, they move them out, they run them back in. It doesn't take but a week. And there's another 100 or more back there. So it isn't anything, I've been seeing this since it all began. You know, it's in the backside, and it keeps saying, what's the solution? We clean it up, they come back. We clean it up, they come back. We clean it up, they come back.
Yeah.
You know, and my phone goes off all the time from the alarm to run. All the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not lying, but I got my concealed weapons permit. And if it happens in my yard, there's going to be a problem. My wife carries too.
Amen.
Yeah. So if we don't come up with a solution, you're going to have some deaths around here. And people going to people's yards. That's the truth, because we are frustrated. Totally frustrated.
I understand.
And I've been in my house for 40 years. And, you know, I'm probably the first black family in Southeast Portland right there. And I've seen things. I've seen things. And if you have a recycling can, don't put it out till it gets here, because if you leave it
Well, I
out,
hope when we have a village in your area, that you'll be a volunteer there.
oh, no problem.
Yeah. It's going to take a community solution. So it's going to take a relationship between the neighbors, the nonprofit, and then government just needs to provide the infrastructure to get out of the way and let the nonprofits and the neighbors and the people that live
And
there.
don't get me wrong, I'm for you, I'm not against you.
Oh, I'm good, I'm tough.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I wouldn't have ran.
Behind these
I
guys,
wasn't.
you know, so I just want a solution, because to tell you the truth, I'm going bye-bye, I'm moving. I can't take it anymore.
I understand. Yeah, the city is in a crisis like we've never been. I mean, it was bad. When Keith and I were talking a year and a half ago, it was like you thought it couldn't get worse. And it's obviously gotten much worse since
We should be the number one with the weed in here with all that. We should be the number one. They should be pollen in here, wanting to live here. And we don't. You don't want to come here to smoke marijuana because of the shootings. That's our tax money.
Yes.
What does volunteering look like?
Well, I don't know yet. I mean, it's going to be very organic. When there's one that opens up, it's going to just take people to show up. And in my experience, when I volunteer, you show up and figure out what your job is and you do it.
Well, we've seen action with people showing up. It does pretty good. They come from all over the city.
It's really the attitude. It's the willingness to want to care. But I did want to test it because people are obviously complaining about this current status quo, as you should. And so I'm just in a position where what influence can I do to make something better? And the villages is the best concept that I can see that's taking the step in the right direction.
So we're shutting down Dignity Village. Why you shut Dignity Village down when you try to get villages together?
No, that's not shutting down. That's misinformation. Dignity Village isn't shutting down.
They're going to keep it open?
Yeah.
Because the news said the other day Dignity Village was going to be shut down. And I was like, well, why are we shutting it down? Because I helped build Right Stream 1. I helped build Right Stream 2. We need more of them, yes.
Yes, we do need more.
And we need the nonprofits to run them.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
And we need the nonprofits to run the $4 million team too. We don't need to pay $100 and some thousand when we can get good volunteers in there to do what they can do already.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Union Gospel Mission Rescue Team, they come out, they stay with the guy until he's good to go.
Yes.
They don't. Go out on a ride with them, man. Go for a ride for a day. And you'll be surprised you only see one person they work with. God bless.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how many people are going to become homeless as the eviction moratorium ends?
Yeah. First of all, there's a lot of resources, and so it's about getting the resources to people by July 1. And the Housing Bureau is working with the county, and they've identified roughly 12,000 that might be in that situation. And they just have to pay July's rent, not the whole backup arrears. That's not due until February of next year. So we're planning for the worst, but hoping for something much better, right?
So you believe you won't have a big...
I don't think it's going to, I mean, the numbers that I'm looking at right now and listening to the head of the Housing Bureau, the system they have, and the good thing is about COVID is that they have relationships with more nonprofits that have relationships with people in this situation, so that's who they're working with. And you're right, it is a panic that we would add more people. But there's a lot of resources. What's that?
If you don't know how many people you...
Yeah, I said 12,000. Right now, it's roughly 12,000 that we're targeting, and then we're trying to make sure that they get the resources to pay July's rent. Yeah, it's not, some people think that it's going back all the way to last March, but it's not. It's just they have to pay this month's rent, July's rent.
Okay.
The arrears has to be paid by February next year, I think, yeah. Yeah, good. Thank you for asking that question. You, and then you after that. Yes?
Commissioner Ryan, I'm Jerry Sargent. I own Sargent's Motorsports just down on Foster.
Okay.
A few years back, I worked with Sam Adams to help champion the Foster Road, Foster and Johnson Creek watershed recreation. It's now, I mean, they moved out 13 homes, relocated those people, made them whole. That was the key. We made those people whole so they could go elsewhere and buy a home, not with the floodplain designation. Right now, this property is owned by the city, and it is the worst neighbor that I've ever seen. I'm sure you drove by it. I've got customers that called me up. They were coming from Vancouver, Washington, took the Foster Road exit, saw all that homeless. They went right back on the highway, and they called me when they were almost to the Gladstone exit, and they said, if we take the wrong exit, we're afraid. We're afraid. I've been here since the 80s, bought my property. And God bless the police officers here too, because they watch our property for us, and we really appreciate that, the businesses. But when you see what the worst neighbor is the city's property, and that's a $28 million federally and state and city funded property that is being motorhomes with their hoses into the dry wells that are going into Johnson Creek. There's campers all along the creek. Anybody that would walk on the Springwater Trail, I'm feared for my life.
It's true.
Yep.
So there's going to be a cleanup in this area on the 26th. Okay? And I've been in communication with Sam, and because this is his legacy. That's a huge legacy that he left because he championed that. He might not have been the mayor that everybody liked, but I'm going to tell you, he got in, rolled up his sleeves, and I believe he did exactly what you're trying to do right now. Roll up your sleeves and let's get down to business. And you're thinking like a businessman. You're thinking like a businessman and how to do it. The city spent $58 million on the homeless project last year. Projects. Where did it? This man right there says nothing happened. $58 million. You start looking at the people at the top making $100,000+ a year, and that money is being taken away. This is an urban renewal project. The PDC started. Millions of dollars have been spent, but PDC was getting 20% for marshaling the money, watching it just sit there in the bank every year. We need action. Okay? We need livability. I get your plan. But the plan to start putting up little houses in residential areas isn't going to fly. You're going to have to put them on either industrial property or something along those lines where they're going to be able to. Now I'm going to tell you a story. This just happened a couple of years, 2 years ago to my family. We lost an uncle. His son is a 29-year police veteran of the Phoenix Police Department. He was up here for the funeral. They see the news. He says, Gary, I know you're kind of involved in the political thing here. What in the world is happening in the city of Portland? And I said, well, it's kind of out of control. And I scratched my head, we're all having kind of a wake there. I said, wait a minute, you're from Sun City, Phoenix, Arizona. You don't have a homeless problem there? He said, well, Gary, he says, I got to be honest with you. We do, but we treat it differently. Oh, now I'm all ears. I said, how do you treat it differently? He said, well, first we enforce the law. But secondly, we enforce the law with compassion. Okay? They said, you got me. What do you mean compassion? How are you enforcing the law? He said, well, when we encounter somebody, they set their tent up on the sidewalk. That's vagrancy. We give them a choice. You can either go to jail for 30 days, or we can get you into some of these services and help you out at the county or the city, whatever. And he says what happens then is that mechanism right there funnels the people in to get the services. Okay? So I said, well, what happens to the guy that goes to jail? Because we got a lot of drug addicts here that don't want to go to any services, and they don't want to do anything. He said, well, then we'll take them to jail. And within a week or two, they want to get into the services. So it works the funnel into getting these services. You have to enforce the laws first. Every one of these motorhomes I went and checked out. Now it's illegal to have them parked there because they've got expired tags. 2016, 2018 was the last time they were licensed. That was pre-COVID.
One was 2010.
Pardon me?
One was 2010 on from the church.
Yeah. So, anyway, so I said, okay, well, what if the guy goes to jail for the 30 days? Gets out, goes, sets up another tent. He said, well, then we give him 3 choices. I said, oh, great. What's the third choice? He said, well, I'm going to tell you. We're going to give him the same 2 choices first. We can get services, they can go to jail again, or we can give him a third one. And the third one is, I said, what's that? He said, we're gonna give them a bus ticket.
Portland.
And I said, where's the majority of them asking to go?
Here.
And swear to God, he said, Portland, Oregon.
Absolutely.
Portland, Oregon. Now, how can that be? How
You
can
can go
that
to
be?
LA or San Diego, get a bus ticket up here homeless in 10 minutes. Be off the street.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Repeat that?
You can go to San Francisco, anywhere, any homeless in San Francisco, go to any organization and get a bus ticket out of San Francisco to Portland, Oregon in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Plus, we have over 1,000 people coming in on trains.
Well,
I mean,
the last one is unconscionable.
yeah,
The
Because
fact
we
that
allow it.
Phoenix allows that to be part of their system should be called out.
yeah. Well,
They should take care of their own just
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
So I have no respect for that third one.
So anyway, my question, my
Yes.
final question. Sorry, I had to get.
No, you're good.
Okay, all right. Is that these properties, like this floodplain, like the Springwater Trail, these are city properties that are paid for by us taxpayers. And we expect the city to maintain them.
Yeah, sure.
And I said earlier that I've emailed Sam, and he's fired off to different bureaus, but nothing's happening here. Now we're into we've got, the fire district is responding, we've had motorhomes that have burnt to the ground there along Foster Road, okay? We've got the fire season, the grass now is this tall, okay? And they got campfires going, and we called 911 and said, hey, we think there's a fire. And they said, well, this was 3 months ago, of course it was cold. They said, well, are they using it to warm themselves? It looks like it's out of control. It's behind the power substation, and it keeps getting bigger. Finally, they came. The fire department did and put it out. But this is, they got to cook their food, they got to do this and do that, and you know what? We need the services. And so anyway, I implore you to, when you get back to your office, is to wind up the city workers that are supposed to maintain the city properties. $28 million spent there of our taxpayer dollars to protect the citizens that have been by nuisance floods. My business has been 4 feet underwater. 4 feet underwater. I've had to evacuate it several times. It wasn't that way before, but expansion, water coming into the creek from impervious surfaces has caused that. Sam Adams got a safety valve put on it, and now it's being destroyed. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have a story, I just have a simple question.
It was you, that's okay.
A simple question.
Thank you.
Service resistant. When you approach somebody who says, I don't want any of your services, I just want to stay here and shoot up and sit in my pile of trash, leave me alone. Why do we allow that? They're on public property, they're vagrant, they're committing crimes right in public, and we allow it because they're homeless? What do you do? My question is, what do you do in that situation with those people? Obvious crimes.
Commissioner,
Night,
that's the whole reason why I'm here, is to get that question
Yes,
answered.
that's a simple question. Answer.
Because they're refusing it week after week, month after month shelter.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here, is to get that answer. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Oh, I would repeat it.
That's why I'm focusing on having places where people can go.
They
Now,
don't
let me
wanna
finish.
go.
Please, let me finish.
Okay.
Please, thank you. So, once we have to do that, and then they can pick that up. Like, if they're refusing to go to the villages, if they're refusing to go to where we have services, then there is that choice. Now, do we have a council that's all on the same, are we all on the same point of view on that? I don't know yet, but we're gonna have great dialogue as we build these villages, and that's going to come up because there's also questions about where you cannot camp any longer. And during COVID, the regulations on that all went away because we were told to let people be in place, right? A lot of us obviously have the luxury of our home to be in place and not be out and expose yourself. So that's what happened during COVID is that the services stopped coming to the houseless, and also the services that would clean up some of the areas where people weren't supposed to be and move them elsewhere. But all we were doing is moving people around because we didn't have any services to take them. So that's why we're working with the county to get more direct online services where we meet people on the ground. And once we have that, then we can have the conversation about whether to take them. I'm sure the police back there could answer this question and say maybe they don't feel like they have enough clarity from their commander on what they could do in those situations. I would like to learn as well on how, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Sergeant Anderson, so what's your question?
So the question is, do you feel like you have the authority to answer her question?
Do I have the authority to answer her service request?
Yeah.
Service resistance question?
Yeah.
I do not have the authority because, especially with the way the city is broke down, each bureau is responsible for their property. So like you guys were speaking about the motorhomes, that seems to be a hot issue, hot topic.
Yes.
That is a PBOT issue because it's parking enforcement. The police will come out if there's like an active crime or some kind of violence going on in progress, but that is not the police bureau's responsibility. We are not funded to deal with that issue. We are it's coming down with, especially with us continuing to take budget cuts, we are essentially getting to a point where it's just going to be core police functions, which is responding to 911 calls. But as far as dealing with service-resistant, houseless individuals, I can't make them go to services. I can't do anything with them.
Thank you. So this is what happens at the city of Portland a lot. We do this a lot. It's not my responsibility because of this bureau, that bureau. So the reason we're having these weekly meetings right now is to eliminate that confusion. So as we build these villages, we have clarity on what the authority is. And so when that question is asked, that officer could say, okay, now I have the authority. It's not the bureau that owns the property, it's that this is the policy on how we handle the situation. And we're all on the same team. Transportation should be on the same team as the police department. Should be on the same team as the parks department. Should be on the same team as all of the other bureaus. And so what we're doing in these meetings once a week is busting down those silos. So when we take action, we have clarity and we can actually move the needle. This has been going on for a long time. I just got there, but this is what I'm learning. So I'm at a meeting and I can hear different bureaus have different answers and not have accountability. And it's not their fault. It's that at the top, we don't have a system that one on the ground can actually operate with confidence. So that's what we have to do. And when you're elected right now in 2021, this is my money. You come to meetings like this, everyone's pissed off, you have every right to be pissed off. And we're all in a crisis. But I'm not going to be able to fix it without you all switching your attitude and becoming a part of the solution. And having their backs and knowing that they have to work together as a team, just like the woman who was over here has to start working with their neighbors and not turning them into enemies. Stop it. Those of you that are helpers need to start helping.
We're helping all we can.
I know you are, but I just have to get that off my chest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez, I just got here and I'm happy. You, and then I do have to toast it.
Okay,
You probably want me to.
my name's Bill Russell. I've been with Union Gospel Mission 32 years. In that time, the homeless were mostly in Old Town.
Oh, yes. I grew up here, I know that.
Good. I want to acknowledge, because we visit 70 to 100 homeless camps a week, the lion's share of homeless camps are in this neighborhood in Delta Park. They've gotten more than their fair share.
Yeah.
And it is the severely mentally ill and drug addicted who make up a large percentage. You don't hear that from the Joint Office. In fact, they deny that reality. And guys like Porkchop desperately want to get off. He's worked with Project Response. The problem is when you go up to the Joint Office for solutions, the only solution for him is in housing authority applications that I've gotten 7 rejections from him, and I've gotten them for the last 10 years or 8 years. So the system at the top of housing first and affordable housing doesn't connect. And my question for you is, when you discover all this, will you call it out? Because we know you're a good-hearted pragmatist who wants to fix the city. Yeah. But do you have the ability to call it out when you see that the policies on the top, the $256 million Metro Housing Bond will not fix the RVs in this neighborhood? And I want to know if you will call that out when you learn.
Yeah,
You know what, Dan? My vehicles have been all licensed and everything, and insurance, because of the COVID. It's not right now, because I can't get there to get it done. So,
Yours isn't.
but that's just, I'm just saying, I'm trying to obey by the law. I'm trying to do the right thing, to have license, insurance, and a home. But that's, so I have a place to live and to survive, and I can't. So that's where I'm at.
And stick with him.
He's not a meth
I
addict.
got 20 years out of heroin, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
More
I'm
than
taking on
that.
more than three. I'm taking more than the city has, and I'll guarantee you it's CBD healing.
So since I've been in office, I understand what you're saying more than ever. I will tell you that the Housing First initiative has merit, and we need to, it's an and solution. And we have people that are on the streets that need to be served now. That's why I'm moving to bring services with a team. I have to count to 3 on the council.
Right.
And then in this job, I have to count to at least 3 at the county.
Right.
I had no idea it was going to be this rough. But anyway, because it's 2 different entities.
One more.
No, I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just saying this is me being pragmatic.
I'm on the founding board of Harbor of Hope, and I totally support your village concept, and we're working our butts off to help expand.
Yeah, and there's providers that aren't currently in the network that need to be in the network.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so when I was asked while I was running, are you supportive of Bybee Lakes, which people wanted to call a jail, which was never opened up? And I said I am supportive of Bybee Lakes because they get results based on the history that they came with from Clatsop County.
Right.
And when I've been out there now twice since they've been up and running, I'm seeing great results. That's called high barrier. Like, you can't go there unless after 3 or 4 days you commit to sobriety, you commit to wanting to be a part of a jobs program, you commit to their program. The county and the city has to let that into the network
How
as
do you
well.
get them clean?
What's that?
How do you get them clean? We got Hooper's closing, we got
All the more reason why we need to support those type of systems.
well, what we need to do, Dan, is say what we have in our programs and go out and detox in the field. We can do that.
That's the whole idea.
But you guys have got to realize that these Christian agencies out here that is doing God work, you guys need to focus on piping, giving them more funding so they can come out and help us. Because they're the ones that's doing it. It's not the ones that are taking the trans and all that you guys force them to take. Those programs got plenty of funding. They don't.
Yeah.
Let's help out the Christian. Let's help God out a little bit. Because that's where it is. Jesus will save Portland. You can't save Portland.
No, I certainly can't. But I do know that all of us can. And I also did say that I think we need to expand the provider network. So I hope you heard that.
Yeah, I did, Dan.
I only have time
I
for
voted for you, Dan. I'm backing you. I backed you.
Thank you.
And I backed you because you were honest about your family and what died. Now you're looking at a guy, I am your brother. Saved my life.
I want to take it down to a more philosophical level. That gentleman over there totally gets the idea. We're all sitting here frustrated about what's going on our street in our neighborhood. And we're all arguing with something. My problem is more important than your problem. It's actually the mayor's problem. Government's primary function is to protect me, the taxpayer, the citizen. That's the primary function. Total failure. Poland is a global laughing stock. My relatives write to me and tell me, what's going on? This is too ridiculous. Because nobody stood up to what's gone on in this city. And it's given free rein to people who act out and have suddenly become they've entered the high echelons of society. Me, who's always worked, who's an immigrant, but a white one, so I count for nothing. Me, who's paid my taxes all my life, I have to spend my weekends cleaning graffiti, I clean up mini homeless camps, I pick up needles. It's government's problem. It's the leaders who have failed. It's not all these people here who are trying their best to keep their neighborhood. So we're going to build a few houses here until we have expectations of people and say, it is not okay to do this. It's not, I don't feel sorry for you, because these people don't need us to feel sorry for them. Half of them aren't stupid. They can do something for themselves. Have expectations of people. You would do it for your children. Do it for them. Don't take this bullshit from them anymore. We've had it before. Are we too far gone? I think we might be. And another thing I'd just like to say, I have to change the form of city government. We have to get out of this 4 commissioners.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what's going on in North Portland is not the same as what's going on in the Southwest Hills,
true.
or is what's going on in Selwood or Garfield.
Yeah.
And we don't like it.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
That's okay, guys.
Amen.
Thank you.
I'm here to take it
And the way to get people to be responsible and have expectations is to totally refund these guys with plus.
Yeah, and also have them be a part of a system. And so that they are working with the fire bureau, they're working with the park rangers, they're working with the Department of
We have to
Transportation.
get back.
No. Until they all see themselves as one team, this city is not going to turn around. So we have to break down the silos, because there's too much of this going on. Trust me.
Oh, absolutely. That's because we don't have a commissioners or representatives of different parts of the
Anyway,
city.
no, I hear you, but I mean, it's an attitude adjustment too.
No, really, you have to change the city charters, because when, you're the 26th largest city in the United States.
Oh, no, I agree with that. I'm sorry. Let's stay on the topic. I'll take one more, and then I do need to go, because I know you have other people that are just dying to talk to from the city. Yeah.
And thank you for being here. I recognize we are in a crisis, and it does take all of us, community, politicians. But I am intrigued by what is our city doing to learn from cities and governments where things seem to be working better.
So the question is, what are we learning from other cities? And I'd say that it is a really good question. So Oakland actually has made it really clear on where someone can, that's why the Safe Rest Villages really, they're onto that. And so they've been able to move houseless people into those villages and not have people camp just anywhere in the city. And so you had to offer those services because there was a Supreme Court decision or Ninth Circuit Court that said that. And so that's one of the ideas.
Okay.
The part that hurts me the most is when you hear, and it's when you hear this a lot, the whole bus ticket thing.
I know.
That's not going to be one of our solutions, right? Someone from the community of faith, but we really do need to. Again, our state is 51st in the country with mental health systems.
That's true.
And I know the police force knows that because they weren't trained to be trauma-informed mental health therapists when they go out on their beats. And the thing is, our state doesn't have that type of system set up. So yes, we do need a version of the Portland Street Response. We need one that can be fully funded for the long term. So that's why we're proposing to test other pilots that will work with the county and with the mental health system that we have and build it up. We can't depend on it coming from Salem anymore. We have to start creating that locally.
You know, I lived in San Francisco, and okay, we did give bus tickets to get rid of people, but you had to make contact with someone at the other end, and there had to be somebody to pick them up. Now, we've had failures, I know. We'd ship people out to Florida, and they'd live on their mother's couch for 2 weeks, and then the mother would have a nervous breakdown or something, and the guy would be back on the streets in Florida. No, this happened. So, but the thing is, you have to connect these people with families because it's going to complete them as a person. They have more chance of becoming sober if they have family. Not a family of the drug addicts.
Right. Well, I look forward to coming back. I actually did that because we have nowhere to go but up. But if we don't start building trust, people like you who obviously love this city, or you wouldn't be coming to this room at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night to listen to a new commissioner tell you what they're up to. And I really appreciate and respect all of you for being here. I heard your passion. I understand you're upset. And I won't forget this experience. And so thanks for having me.
You forgot it.
They were too scared.
This was, Keith and I are rough riders. We're not scared.
Check out Portland. What's that? Check out Portland because Portland is beautiful.
Our best days are in.
You could always look at something. You have to not have, okay? But I'll be saying goodnight.
Thank you.
to talk about their programs and what they're doing with the homeless issue. Okay.
So you mind if I have a seat? I'm probably sure we're going to stand up. But good evening, everyone. My name is Vicente Harrison. I am the Health, Safety, and Emergency Manager for Portland Parks. I've been with Portland Parks for 8 years now, and of course, as a park ranger, and now working on other things for our entire bureau. I'll let Sophia introduce herself.
I'm Sofia Chavier, and I am the Park Security Manager. I've been with the city since 2012. I started working in Mayor Adams' office as a police and peacekeeping policy advisor. I did that for a little bit, and then I moved into the parks as a ranger. Since then, I've moved up, I guess so, to the security manager position, and I'm happy to be here.
So we're here to give you a quick overview. I know there's a lot of questions. We're going to give you a quick overview of what our resources are going to look like this summer. I know you heard a lot from Commissioner Ryan on the conditions of why nothing has been done. And that's quite frankly the simple way to put it. We've had 12 months now since last March where absolutely nothing has been done to mitigate the situations that are impacting your neighborhoods, that are impacting our parks, that are impacting our streets, and it's grossly unfortunate. Since being with the city for 8 years now, I've seen this condition before. For many of us that has been living, maybe you've been living in this neighborhood, have observed the Springwater Trail back in the, I would say about 2013, 2012, we saw these conditions before.
Yeah.
And we worked hard.
Yes.
And we worked tirelessly to get them back to terrible, horrible, to really, really bad. All right? I can't say that we've ever been in a state where we've fixed the problem or we've made it totally suitable for any citizen paying taxes in this city to appreciate business owners, to really value the parklands and the public spaces that we want people to come out and enjoy. But we did make some headway. There were some systems in place. Now back then, when I started with the program, I was a seasonal ranger back then. And back then, how we approach campsites that were on our properties is, we go out, we post the camp, then we would come back and we would clean it. We could actually engage and clean properties and make sure that it was taken care of and it was done in a timely manner. Since that time, with a lot of other systems in place, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the one point of contact system. I'm pretty sure you've heard of the houselessness and urban camping impact reduction program. Everything has been funneled to one organization that cleans camps for all of the bureaus. So it's been taken out of our hands, so to speak, to address matters that we get reported to us. Our rangers go out, make contact, we do it with compassion. We do it with making sure people keep their dignity. Unfortunately, there are those that want to stay, and they've got a bus ticket here, or many travelers come from other locations because they know that the city's going to be relatively slow to respond to whatever they're doing.
say to you, I encourage you, moreover, sometimes when we go out to clean camps, we'll have people standing trying to prevent us from doing what you're complaining about. What? Yes.
Yeah.
There are people that will come, advocates or demonstrators, protesters, when we're trying to clean and clear out an area, they will literally protect the people to stay in the area in the conditions that they're in that are totally unsafe. The parks are not made for people to live in. Natural areas especially are not made for people to live in. However, this is the climate that we're facing. What you can do, you have to be as fervent and as vigilant as those demonstrators and report. Literally, the website you report to is reportpdx.com. We know that Huckabee is slow in getting out, and they literally haven't done anything for 12 months since COVID has started, which has compounded all of our issues, right? We talked about the pointing of fingers. We talked about different bureaus not knowing what steps to take. And then when COVID came, that really exposed all of our weaknesses. And the commission form of government, where nobody's accountable, even our commissioners don't get along, and our mayor doesn't get along in terms of what direction they're going to take to solve a problem. You have to report it. This room can't be the only space that you share your frustrations. When you report that to Report PDX, that puts a dot. It puts a dot on their radar. Till they have to. They have a budget, and they have to go out and address the issues. But if they're only hearing about it from the gentleman here in the brown hat, but they never hear about it from the gentleman back there in the green jacket, they're going to think Mr. Brown Hat is just exaggerating about the issue. They need to hear from brown hat, they need to hear from green jacket, they need to hear from purple shirt, they need to hear from flannel, brown hat again, green shirt, flannel, every day. I'm dead serious. Every day you have to report this. And that will help make the change. That's what helped make the change back in 2013. That's how the Ranger program, when I started, we only had 4 full-time Rangers for 12,000 acres of land in the city. Over 200 parks, 4 full-time Rangers. Imagine that.
We got hired and there were 7.
Yeah. It's number 6 and number 7 right here.
6, 7.
Yeah, 6, 7. In any case, we have 25 full-time Rangers now. We have been given additional funds for this summer because people are getting back out into our parks, which have been a refuge for some, but a headache for others, right? Because you can't even go out and enjoy your natural areas because you see conditions that feel unsafe and they're not inviting. I appreciate seeing Craig here. I'm gonna answer your question really quick. I'm gonna finish my monologue here and then we'll take questions. I appreciate my friend Craig here because we work hard to build relationships with the communities that we serve. And me and Craig, he holds me accountable. I'll just put it that way. He holds me accountable for conditions that he's seeing and what we're doing with our resources to address the situations at hand. And we need those allies. We need more than just Craig. We need allies so that we can continue to address the issues at hand. With that being said, I know I've been talking a long time. I want to address some of your questions, but I also want to highlight some more resources. And I'll follow up in an email to Shar. I think that's what I've been in communication with. Yeah. I'm going to give you a list of resources because even the ones that don't want services, you got to know what to say. Multnomah County Crisis Line, when you see these people suffering from mental health issues, you have to call the crisis line and tell them exactly what you're seeing. Even when reporting it to police, details of exactly what you're seeing, exactly what you're experiencing, exactly the way it's making you feel. Don't speak in broad terms. Use the cuss words they use. Use the conditions or the feces that they leave behind and explain it in that plane of details because that's what's going to get a response in terms of these resources. Mr. Sargent.
Well, thank you. Very well introduction that you've done. My question is that as everything's supposed to funnel down to one unit that's supposed to take care of the cleanup, okay? I've talked with Ed with ODOT on the off-ramps. I've talked, and I'm getting this, okay? It's not my job now. It's not my job now. So I explained to him, I said, you know, it is your job because it's making you look bad. This is state property. That is so scary when people take an off-ramp. They want to get back on. And I've had that happen. So what pressure are you putting on this bottom of the funnel that's making the Parks Bureau really look bad because they're not maintaining it? You don't need to carry a gun. I was glad to hear that you don't want to carry guns. But it's your area to make sure and maintain. So when the dust all sifts out, these people that are supposed to clean it up go, well, we didn't know about this, or we don't have the statistics to back up that we should be doing this. So what are you doing internally to put pressure on not only your particular section, you know, parks, but when you drive around, you see ODOT section, okay? You see these other, I mean, you talk about being on one team.
Right.
That's how it should be, and teams play down to the end to make sure they get results.
I'd like to speak to that just for a minute. I'd like to speak to that. Just a piece of that puzzle. So a lot of what we are doing, certainly like for park rangers and the security program, is that we're making our data better. So what we're doing is we're going to be able to tell the story that you all are telling us better, so that we can relay that to other bureau partners, to other bureaus, to other electeds or whomever, to say, this is the story that we're getting and this is what we're seeing. So when rangers go out, we're able to say, okay, we've seen this in this park, and here's the trend and what it's been looking like. We haven't always had that good of data, that great of data. So we want to be able to tell that story in a way that makes sense to other people so that they can look at it and say, oh, well, we're seeing that same trend here on ODOT property or on PBOT property or on, or we saw the same issue move from your property when you talked to them to our property, and now we are able to use that information and say, hey, we know this guy or this person or this, issue. It's not always people, it's also other stuff. But, being able to kind of put that together, I think is important.
To add to that, in terms of what we're doing, we can't wait on everybody else, even if we report it to them, because just like you don't see the results, we don't necessarily see the results. So we're working to make our data better, but we're taking ownership of what we can do. HUCERP is one tool. They deal with people's private property. We can't just, because of the Anderson Agreement, legal matter, can't just go and take people's stuff. So we're securing our own trash contractor, so that when we see debris and there's no campsite, it's just a mess. We can deploy our own contractor to address those issues. Another look behind the curtain, and it's the reason why we need to hear from you, like we hear from Craig, and I'll share my contact information so that you guys can reach out to directly, is we're on a coordination call every week. Every Friday, we're on a coordination call with ODOT, with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department, all of the outreach workers, HUCERP, and we're talking. And unless Craig or Mr. Gentleman in the brown hat says, this is going on here, what are you going to do about it? I can bring that to the call. It's like, hey, this is what we're hearing, and you know what? We're going to bring this to the call this Friday, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. We're going to say, we were at the Lents Association meeting.
Foster off-ramp.
Foster off-ramp.
Start there.
Start there.
MUP. MUP, yeah.
Now, I saw, sorry to interrupt you, but I saw, as I was coming to work, some of the rangers, and it might have been you, walking the Johnson Creek floodplain the other day. Okay? And I'm just wondering, is there going to be, you talk about your own resources to get the garbage? I mean, it's almost like they leave the garbage here and then they move about 20 feet down the road and then they leave more garbage, and then they move more. And then it's, somebody comes behind them, and then they leave more garbage.
Yeah,
So-
re-encamp where somebody has been. So
Yeah.
we're addressing the trash, that's what we're assessing right now. Someone mentioned wildfire hazard zones.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna get a response from the city? Like, we have to do this now. This is the driest April and May that we've ever seen.
Yes.
And we saw the smoke and fire last year that happened. It's gonna be worse this summer if we don't get people out of areas that they're not supposed to be living in once that vegetation dries up. So, we are assessing the areas now. We are directing trash resources there. And Hucker is doing a little bit of something now. They're doing a little bit of something. They're starting to address cleaning up camps again, but they need to hear from you. Report pdx@portlandoregon.gov. Great.
I need to mention something that you already know now. Is that the first time I ever saw Vicente in front of city council, you know, they're up higher, he's down lower. You know, that's the way the Korean talks were between when the Korean War, with the chairs higher. They make him feel superior. So then Vicente, he's getting thrown these tough questions. And my jaw dropped because he's telling the truth rather than the political thing. Because when you see most people appear before city council, oh, they're just saying the political thing. No, Vicente was telling the truth, and that's what you've been hearing. I mean, this is really different, and it should sound different. So, also to compliment something he's saying, right near where I live, within the last week we had an individual that moved down to the corner where there's all these homes with probably more than a dozen kids. And this individual over decades has been dangerous. He stalks people, and then this is on the edge of the school, when the principal went out there, he's throwing cans of food at him. This is just the other day, cans of food at him, and then he also, this is strange, he dropped his drawers. I mean, we're talking both pairs, right? I mean, it was crazy. So then, you know, I thought, you know, my neighbors need to be, so I emailed, and you got to be selective with the words you use. Somebody up here mentioned that. Make it meaningful. So I emailed Erica, who is the commander of the East Portland Police Precinct, and then I copied Ted Wheeler. And Ted got back to me 7:15 next morning. He said he's going to have Erica look at. So then, you know, they came over and he's throwing cans and, you know, oh, did I mention that he pulled a knife on the principal? Maybe I already did. So then the officers come over and they tase him and take him in. They tase him, but then there's his vehicle. When he gets out, is he going to come back? So then I call up the head of Portland parking violation, who used to be actually assistant police chief. You know what? No cooperation, no help. You know, I always heard that rules are only guidelines, aren't a substitute for thinking. This person was all ingrained in the political thing, see. He didn't want to do the wrong thing, you know. And so then here comes two officers. I live right across the East Portland Police, and I'm telling them about it. And one of them says, well, geez, I can take care of that when I go to work. So then about half an hour later, here comes the tow truck, you know, backed up to this thing. I don't know where he took it. Doesn't matter to me. But remember that rules are only guidelines. They're not a substitute for thinking. Sometimes you got to come to these meetings, get to know people, be creative, be respectful. Dignity comes in there. But nonetheless, if you don't give up, you can never fail.
Frustrations are real, and as public service and public safety officials, we understand that, and we need to hear that, so we can say it in the language like Craig said, so we can speak the truth to that power about what the community is dealing with, so that we can allocate the appropriate resources to help mitigate the situation. Ma'am.
I don't know how many of you were at the meeting with the commander from the East Precinct, but to back up what you say, she said, if you don't call, it didn't happen.
Correct.
So you call and call and call, and when they start seeing a huge number, then all of a sudden the lights go on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So much of this response, whether it's police or it's rangers or whomever, any kind of agency, it's totally data driven. And I hate, hammering on the data thing, but it truly is. I would like things to be more from the standpoint that, hey, I walked out into the neighborhood and somebody told me something, but as it turns out, in a city this size, we need the data to actually have a real response to any of the issues that are happening out there. So yeah, report.
We got 25 new Rangers coming out. East Portland's been underserved. Let's be honest, it has been. For many years, our concentration has been in downtown and the west side of the Willamette River. With these 25 Rangers that we coming on, we're going to be able to service East Portland more efficiently. Something that you didn't know, because we hear what the community says, so we make adjustment with our resources. We used to be an 8-hour operation when I came on. Then we transitioned to an 18-hour operation. Now we're a 24-hour operation. We have Rangers on from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. addressing parking lot concerns, any after-hours emergencies. There was a vehicle caught on fire in Mount Tabor Park 2 nights ago. So the more and more we know about what you're seeing after hours, we can direct those resources to help address those things. Craig mentioned PBOT. Mike Krebs is his name, former police. Even though Craig doesn't necessarily agree, Mike is a good resource for you. In terms of these RVs out here, you have to report these conditions to him so that he can send his resources to deal with them. These RVs, the RV story is almost like the people getting a bus ticket here story.
Yes.
They're giving away these RVs to folks.
They are.
There's some tow agency that is literally just giving away RVs because it costs them money as a tow agency to dismantle it.
A ton.
And so instead of doing all that, they're giving it away.
Yep. Or
they're selling it for $1. And next thing you know, I can't even afford an RV. And there's RVs all up and down like it's a campground. So PBOT's responsibility for that. You got to continue to call them, hold them accountable for these unlicensed tags. Now people are living in them. That's where Hucker comes, that report PDX, because Hucker is not just a cleanup. No. They have outreach workers designated within their organization to come and try to transition these people into housing or other social services that we don't have. We're parks. We don't have social workers. We don't have social service agencies, but our workers are impacted just the same. So, again, reporting these details. When people are living in RVs, report PDX so they can send out the outreach workers. Report it to PBOT at the same time so they can deal with the RV. Once the people are out of the RV, then PBOT can deal with the vehicle. They're living in there. Hucker has to deal with those individuals before that they can transition that out.
what is that? Is that an acronym you're saying?
Yeah, Hucker is Houselessness, Urban Camping, Impact Reduction Program. And OMF, who manages that program.
Office of Management and Finance.
Is that Jonathan Lewis's department?
That is Jonathan Lewis, yeah.
I think that they're changing their name. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think that they're trying to transition away from Hucker because it's such a bureaucratic.
Yeah,
impact reduction.
Yeah,
program
impact reduction
is pretty much what they're going towards.
So they haven't been doing anything for a year. Again, they have not since last March. Everybody has adjusted their resources to continue to do business. Even Pizza Hut adjusted their resources to get you pizza still. But Hucker, because of COVID, which COVID has not impacted the homeless community. They have a healthy immune system. So because of that, at first they were a little cautious because of that. But now they're slowly releasing that protocol where we can move people and adjust people again. But they need to hear that there's drug use going on. They need to hear that they're up all night suffering from a mental health crisis. They need to hear that they're breaking bottles. They need to hear, especially in the next couple of months, that there's illegal fires happening.
Yeah.
And once the powers that be hear those things, then resources have to be allocated, because Commissioner Ryan and all the other commissioners, the last thing they want to do is hear these complaints and then a travesty happens and then they go back to the records of, well, you were told about this, why didn't you do anything? So resources have to come. It's frustrating, but again, if you saw, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know if many of you saw Springwater Trail back in 2013. I mean, it was very, very terrible, and we got that. We got
it cleaned up.
We got it cleaned up. Now it's trickling back again.
Bad.
But we're going to get it back. We have to have that hope. We cannot give up, and we have to be as enthusiastic as these advocates when they go out and try to keep this condition, because they ain't paying taxes. A lot of these advocates come from Vancouver and Hillsborough and all these other places, and then they go to their homes. But
they wanted to stay there because if you move them out, they're like, let's go to their place.
Exactly.
So what are you guys responsible for, so that we know when to call and call some bills?
All the parks property. So the best way to look at it is there's an application called Park Scan PDX. Park Scan PDX. That has all of our properties in it. Around here, Springwater Trail, Foster Floodplain, Floyd Light Park, all of the city parks. Now, we're not in Gresham. It's only on the Portland side. Every city park. Playhaven.
MUP?
No, not the Most Use Trail. Yeah, that's not our.
What about ODOT property?
Not ODOT property either. So it's only the Parks Department, but we are the largest property owner in the city. So we have jurisdiction on Parks property only. But again, we're coordinating with this because if something's happening on the multi-use trail and then they're just coming right to the Springwater, we have to be working together. It's like, hey,
so you guys use Springwater?
Yeah, Springwater Trail is ours. Yep.
So if it's not sure, and it's like, well, it could be a park, just ask, so you can always ask us.
Another really quick report, PDX reporter. PDX, these are all the ways you can report, right? Park Scan PDX, PDX reporter, then report PDX. Did I confuse you yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I did. That's how the city that works, right? Yeah. Report PDX is for camping, Park Scan PDX is for parks, and then PDX reporter is all of the city. So if you get confused, it's like, all right, I don't know who to report to.
And Park Scan you can use for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It scans, but it's also like that thing's broken.
Scan with an N or an M?
And Nancy.
Yep. Yep. Scans. SCAN. Let's get in the back and then we'll come back to you, Craig.
I was just wondering what's happening with the campsites then. So say they're not in Laurelhurst Park, but they're on the perimeter across from the houses and they are attacking people in those houses. Are you responsible for that even though they're not in the park?
No, Oak Street is a very contentious area. We are not responsible. That's PBOT that's responsible for the grass right next to the road. That's all PBOT. Our jurisdiction's in the park, but again, we have to work with them because they're leaving the street, going into the park, and rangers have to go to the park, get them out of the park, they go back to the street. So it's an unfortunate game of whack-a-mole that we don't enjoy playing, but the city, I think Commissioner Ryan was here, the city has to come up with a larger strategic plan to deal with that situation, and it's underway right now. It's been ignored because of COVID. Remember, when we weren't addressing things for this 12 months, it compounded all of our weaknesses. All of our weaknesses got exposed. And the last one I want to see exposed is the fire prevention. So that's why we really need your help in reporting these things. I'm going to send a follow-up email because I know you're confused with all the park period and all that. I'm going to make sure I send an email with our contact information. One more thing, Craig, and I'm going to get you. I'm sorry. Our program, usually to contact the rangers, you have to go through our customer service center. And they're booking picnics, and you want to get a ranger, and you got an emergency situation. So what we've done now is we got 3 dispatchers coming on, similar to 911, so that you can get straight through 2 dispatchers that are going to be in contact with the rangers by radio, so that we can get to the situations much quicker. And then we can involve police and all first. We're connected to all first responders with this radio. Multnomah County Sheriff, Fire, everyone. We're connected. So we need to hear from you faster.
How do we contact that dispatcher?
So it's still going to be our parks number. It's 503-823-0000. 1637. Again, I'm gonna send an email, so you don't have to write all this down. I'm gonna send an email so it can be circulated. But we won't have those positions until probably late July, hopefully. Hopefully. So, Craig, I'm sorry.
You were talking about whack-a-mole, so your intuition serves you well, because, see, it's not just David Douglas School District has 8 schools connected to the City of Portland Parks, but it's also Portland School District has parks like Grant High School, so see, you know, all too well where these came from, right there next to Floyd Light Park. So there needs to be...
That's a lot less than I've seen in the past, though.
So there needs to be some clarity, because when the street response people were here, everything was going smooth, fine, and all of a sudden I said, well, what about these parks that are connected to the David, and it's like some of them didn't even know that there was another school district in the City of Portland called David Douglas School District. And then who's responsible for those parks that are right there next to, so that's a big hurdle to get through, not just for David Douglas, for the Portland School District, who's responsible for those parks that are connected to the schools? Because they're City of Portland parks.
Right.
See, but you'd think, but boy, when I talked to street response, it was like that.
So that's a great point, because we haven't made great connections other than with you, with David Douglas School. I mean, we do need to get better at that. We're well connected with PPS because Grant Park and a lot of other parks, we're working in partnership with them all summer long for the programming that they have coming back on in park. We can allocate resources there. But I want to talk to you or email me your contact for David Douglas so that Sophia and I can make sure that we're connected directly with them, because we do need to be communicating more efficiently.
It's the principal that I'm tight with the school right next door. Their administration is out to lunch. They want to hide. It's like an ostrich sticking its head in the ground. And, you know, the whole object of their game, when you're in PERS, is to make it to retirement. So you don't want to say anything because it might be the wrong thing. And that's really, let me tell you right here, for those, that's why everything is so low in this city of Portland. The bar's so low, I need a shelf to find it, because the people in PERS that are leading this thing, no, they're just leading to retirement is what they want to do. They don't want to say anything because it might be the wrong thing. So really think about that.
So I want to take as many questions as we can. I know your meeting's coming to an end, and we want to definitely give you all the responses so that you know how to contact us. We do have an email too that goes straight to our security manager, Sophia, our ranger supervisors that we're bringing on 3 more ranger supervisors so that we have that coverage in the night. Right now we have rangers at night, but we don't have supervision at night. And unfortunately, she has to go to sleep sometimes. She's not up 24 hours a night. I am, but she's not.
I don't even want to be. You can do it. Are you getting pushback from anybody to try to implement what you're trying to implement to make the park rangers work better and more efficient?
Well, not necessarily. We're not getting pushback, but sometimes we're thought of as a last resort. For many years, we're thought of as a last resort. It doesn't make a lot of sense because we're the largest property owner in the city. Even within, internally, we were thought of as a last resort. And even internally, because our parks workers are just as frustrated as you.
Yeah, I know.
They're going out trying to beautify these places, and they want a ranger right there right away when they see something happening. But unfortunately, we're in the middle of Forest Park, or we're at the top of Palfield, or we're out on Springwater. And to deal with some of these situations, it takes an hour minimum to address some of these situations. Sophia mentioned our data. We are digital now. So every time we go out to a location, it's recording where we're at. It's recording our patrols. We're able to take photos on site, generate reports from our GIS system now. Before it was all paperwork. Then the paperwork had to get back to the office. Then the paperwork had to be entered into the database. And the database crashes, and then we have to wait 2 weeks, and then we get to solve. We're moving away from that system. We're more efficient now, and we have to be, because quite frankly, we've never seen issues like this before. Like I said, when I started with the program, we're getting about 1,000 calls, 1,000 calls a year. Now we're well over 5,000, 6,000. I mean, That's just calls. I mean, that's not even counting the other calls from the just direct calls that we're getting. So.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, we're talking about the calls that come into the
Customer service
center, whereas we're also taking text messages.
In your ideal world, how many rangers would you have?
I mean, realistically, we would need a minimum of 50 to service a city this size. Yeah, I mean, probably more for sure. Like, Forest Park is 5,000 acres. We only have one dedicated ranger, and he can only be in one place at a time. So, I mean, to get to 50 is going to be tough. We're getting the resources this year to have close to 50, but those are seasonals that we lay off at the end of the year. But in order to service the city properly with the social impacts that we're having, I remember when I'm a transplant to Oregon. I came from Nebraska, and one of the places, the reason I came and live here now, and I'm a tax-paying citizen in the Portland boundary, is because how beautiful the city was. How beautiful the landscape was. Get to the forest, get to the mountains, get to the beaches. I'm like, I'm living here. That's why I came. And I could eat off the streets.
Used to.
When I came here. It's like, there's no broken glass, there's no anything.
No graffiti, no nothing.
And unfortunately, that has changed.
It's horrible now.
But we have to get it back.
Yes.
We have to get it back to
We can.
We can.
Let's do it.
You're giving us hope.
Well, listen, again, COVID has exposed a lot of these weaknesses, but now we're getting out of that, right? We're transitioning back to where things can be addressed the way they need to be addressed. But we need everyone's help to do it. Commissioner Ryan was trying to rally that hope, and he's not my commissioner, but I'm behind that, right? Because if we get everybody, because again, we'll go out to cleaning area. You probably seen me on YouTube a couple times. Big Four Corners, another area not too far from here, and we go out to clean it, and then we have people blocking us to try to actually address the situation. Parks are not made to live in. It's not safe. The amenities are not for 24-hour people being there. And we don't have the budget to keep going back and emptying trash after trash after trash. So we have to do something about it. The city has to do a larger scale plan, whether it's housing, whether it's City of Utah. I think the question came, like, what are we learning from other cities? I don't know why we don't do this one. The City of Utah, I believe, their vacant buildings, they allow people to camp inside of their vacant buildings. And that gets them off of the street, especially in the winter time. So what did parks do during the winter, during COVID? We transformed 3 of our community centers. East Portland was one of them, unfortunately, to a campground. Now, not outside, but inside.
Yeah, but those were empty buildings, those were community centers.
Exactly.
And they kicked us, they were paying taxes and programs out of them.
Well, just because of COVID, we couldn't operate because of COVID, but now they're done. They're not that anymore, but we're doing what we can. The city has to take innovative plans like that and put them on a larger scale where people get off the streets and into safer places.
Is Mount Scott Community Center and that park, is that ever going to open up again?
Yeah, 22nd.
Mount Scott, yes.
22nd.
Yep, 22nd. She's a parks worker here.
Okay.
I want to go back to the pool.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, all our pools and the fountains are coming back on. I think fountains are coming back on as early as tomorrow.
My other question is, who's your liaison for ODOT?
ODOT.
Peabody?
No.
Oh, Peabody, maybe Peabody, Peabody.
Peabody is Mike Krebs.
Mike Krebs.
Well, Chris Warner is the head of Peabody.
Right.
Yeah, our liaison, who we work directly with in terms of communicating with on a weekly basis.
With the RVs and the abandoned cars
Mike
around.
Krebs. Mike Krebs.
Mike who?
Mike Krebs, C-R-E-B-S,
Okay.
Krebs. So that's the best contact. I'll put that in the notes as well. Again, I know it's getting late, and I know you guys got to get out of here and eat dinner. What's the name? If you wanted to know, Brooklyn Law, so Bucks won in case you didn't. But we really appreciate it. This won't be our last time here. All right, we're going to come back and talk about our progress that we've made. We've hired 11 of our 35 rangers that we're going to have this summer. They're already patrolling. Craig saw them out already. They're already patrolling East Portland. But when the activities happen in the park, and if you ever see a structure in the park, you need to call us right away. Like, we have to jump on that right away, because the more you let things get settled in,
Oh, boy.
then it's harder to move. Then the advocates come. We have to address those situations right away, so we want to make sure you have the contact
Our
information.
property goes up against the Indian Creek. Oh, does it?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, property, park.
But thank you guys for inviting us. We definitely understand and hear your frustration.
Hey, please,